All right, back with another Power Rankings tier list. Week 10, we have finished 10 weeks now, only 8 regular season weeks remaining, so gotta enjoy them now when we can, although then we get playoffs, so that'll be fun too. You see the teams that either played tonight or didn't play this week are on the board, with the exception of the Cowboys, because the Cowboys played Monday Night Football. Haven't had a chance to talk about them since that, and also with their trades, we should still talk about them. Also, a slight programming note, you see that the order has been changed, so I realized I can, instead of having to clear the whole board and then redo everything, I can just clear each individual line, but in doing that, it kind of makes them in backwards order from what was last week. So like the Saints were in the bad tier, they end up first. The Bills were in the Super Bowl contenders tier, they end up last, that kind of thing. But I thought that could actually be interesting. So let's just try it that way and see how it goes, and we'll see if I like it or not. All that being said, the Dallas Cowboys, who lose a bad one to Arizona. And this Cowboys defense just is so poor that they need great performances from their offense. And at first, they were kind of getting those great performances, but the offense has cooled off, and it hasn't been bad, but it's just like, if it's not elite, this team can't win games. Although now they go out and they add a couple of defenders. Logan Wilson, a solid off-ball linebacker, who should at least be an upgrade from what they currently have. And Quinnen Williams, who's a great player, him and Kenny Clark should be a really good interior. I still don't know if that fixes everything, because they have a lot of issues in their secondary. So I had them in What Are You last week. I think I would have bumped them down after their loss, but I think I would bump them back up given the trades. The Quinnen Williams helps. So I guess What Are You, still not a great team, but that's where I have them. The New Orleans Saints get a win here, a divisional win. I still don't know if they're a great football team. Is it enough for me to bump them up into Scrappy? Sure, why not? They've been competitive in games. They win against a decent Panthers team. They were in bad last week. Let's bump them up to Scrappy. The Browns, another team that was in bad last week, losing to the Jets, can't really take you out of that tier. And even for the Jets, who beat the Browns, good win for them. I still think they're a bad football team. I still think this is the category that the correct category for them, even if things, even if they were able to ultimately get the victory there. Then you have the Giants. This is the last of the teams I had in bad last week, and now Jackson Dart getting banged up. They nearly beat Chicago. Again, there are good things about this team, but even in their good weeks, it still feels like they lose. So I'm going to keep them in bad this week as well. Now let's go over to the teams that we had in the Scrappy tier last week, starting off with the Washington Commanders. Maybe this was too high on them. Honestly, Mariota wasn't even a disaster. We can say, well, it's the quarterback. Like, it really isn't. Like, this team is just a bad football team from top to bottom. And with Jaden Daniels, I think they're at least scrappy, but they don't have him right now. So they're all the way in the bad tier at this point. Last week I missed the Jaden Daniels injury for whatever reason. I didn't see it until later. So when I recorded this, I didn't realize he had been. I heard he got banged up. I just didn't watch the actual clip. So I knew he wasn't going to play for a few weeks. I didn't see that. But anyway, aware of it now. The Miami Dolphins, who I had in the Scrappy tier, I feel like I've been slightly higher on the Dolphins than other people have. Not to say I've been high on them or anything like that, but I think that they've earned the right to be in the What Are You tier. Again, I think they're inconsistent. Their worst weeks are bad, but like when they put it all together for a 60-minute game, they can play well. Now, I didn't expect this, being able to blow out Buffalo, but divisional games, weird things happen. We'll keep them in that tier. Then we have the Las Vegas Raiders losing a game that they were competitive in with the Denver Broncos, but a team that I had in Scrappy last week, I think I'm going to drop them to bad as well. Just the offense just can't do anything. I know it's Denver's defense, but the offense has just really struggled. If Brock Bowers can't get going, they are, if Brock Bowers isn't there, this is an easy bad team. But Bowers makes you consider, do you bump him up a tier with him alone? But I'm not going to do that here. I'll keep them in bad. Then we have the Houston Texans, who, I think, again, this is not where you are in the standings. This is how I view you as a team. And I think the Texans have consistently played good defense this season. Listen, you're not going to get that fourth quarter from Davis Mills again, right? That was kind of an anomaly. You probably won't get a quarter like that from CJ Stroud this season. So the fact that it happened with your backup quarterback is wild. But also, like, a huge part of that comeback was Jacksonville could not move the ball. There was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out in the fourth quarter. Even when they only had to go like 20 yards to get in Cam Little's range, I think it was even less than that to try and hit the field goal to win it. The Texans defense didn't allow that either. So I had them in the what are you tier. We're now in the stretch of teams that were in the what are you tier, but I'm going to bump them up to the solid tier. Good win for them. 2 teams left that finished in what are you last week, the Cardinals and the Falcons. The Cardinals, this is bad. It was bad. I'll keep them in Scrappy because it does feel like they have, again, similar to Miami a little bit of like if they put it all together for a week, they can look solid. But it feels like Miami, when they put it all together, they're winning some games, whereas Arizona, just the way the season has gone, it just hasn't gone great. And they're at the point now where like they need good Jacoby Brissett games that stay in it, and that's not going to happen too much more. So Trey McBride's really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. has finally got going. They have some pieces defensively, but as of right now, they're scrappy. They're competitive in games, but I think it's fair to bump them down a tier. And then the Atlanta Falcons, I'm going to keep them into what are you tier. They're a team that, played Indianapolis and honestly played Indianapolis fine in that game, right? Like, I think that if you're a Falcons fan, you are not disappointed with the performance, you're disappointed with the outcome, because they really did stay competitive in that game. They showed some nice things, but ultimately their offense, with the exception of that drive at the end, couldn't consistently get going in the second half, and in overtime, not being able to get things done. Colts defense was able to play well. Colts, made a couple of tough plays to get that victory. You're playing a great team. You played them tight. But now at 3-6, that's, it's going to be tough. But I think they're an okay team. So we'll put them into what are you? Because when they play their best football, they can play well. It's just they don't do that too often. The Chicago Bears, they beat the Giants here. I've had them in the solid tier, and I kind of feel like a big part of that is simply due to, I think that their record has shaped that. So I'm going to actually drop them down a tier to the what are you tier. I just feel like, no, that's not fair. I'm going to keep them in solid. I do think that Ben Johnson does some really nice things. And I think Caleb Williams, the way he can make plays out of structure, it helps. The defense has just been so inconsistent for Chicago. That's why I kind of consider putting them in what are you. And quite frankly, like, you need more than 10 points in the first 3 quarters of that game. I know you woke up in the fourth quarter and got it done, but really, it was like the first 55 minutes they had 10 points. Like, that's not good enough. Figured out a way to get the win. Not turning the ball over helps, all that stuff. So they're fine, but, got to make sure they start playing better if they're going to actually, take a run at things. Next up, we have, the loss of the week, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I had, we're now in the stretch of teams that were in the solid tier last week. And I don't know. I think I can keep them in the solid tier, right? I mean, obviously, the way they lost is just brutal and makes you worried about, like, okay, it feels like good teams don't lose those games and win. Good teams will have bad games. It feels like good teams don't blow 19-point leads in the fourth quarter and then still find a way to make the playoffs. But again, the Trevor Lawrence thing, it's just not great. I mean, it just isn't. I know he had that good stretch a couple years ago, but like, it just doesn't seem to be working there. Like I said, when I talked to the Texans, they weren't able to get anything going offensively when they needed to get things going offensively, and the defense couldn't get stops there. I mean, I do think losing Travis Hunter hurts with that. And right now, this is where they're at. They're a solid team. I just don't think I can put them any higher than that. And them, similar to Chicago, I think had I bumped Chicago down, I would have also bumped Jacksonville down. But I figured I'll keep those two teams there. But they got to start playing better as well. Jacksonville just does. The Vikings, I thought, put in a pretty good performance against Baltimore. Now, I don't know what exactly to make of J.J. McCarthy right now. He has been so up and down. He's really hard to get a finger on exactly what he is. That being said, I think that the defense played much better in this game, and the defense has gotten better week after week for Minnesota. I think that you would have liked a little bit more from Jefferson in that game against Baltimore, but they were very much in it. So I had them in what are you? I think I will. I'm considering bumping them up to solid. I think I want to keep them in what are you for now. You could easily talk me into bumping them up though. Like the line between them, Jacksonville, and Chicago is very slim. And honestly, maybe I should have like a tier in between those two teams. But too many tiers already. So this is what we'll do. But it's close. Not a bad performance, even if it was a disappointing loss. So. Okay, now let's go to the teams that were in the, we're already into teams that were in the solid tier last week. The 49ers were in solid last week. They do lose to the Rams. Their defense just can't get stopped. I'm going to keep them in solid. I think the Rams are really good. We'll talk about them when we talk about them. I think the Rams are a really good football team, and it's just like, the Niners, when they have a bad game, it's going to look ugly. That's just the way their current roster is constructed due to injuries. Like, they need to either be able to kind of contain everything. If they can contain everything, they're going to at least be in it, if not just win it outright. But when it feels like a team like Sean McVay and the Rams, when they can say, oh, these are your weaknesses, let's just exploit those weaknesses, and they can do that, like, you're just not going to be able to do anything defensively. So Brock Purdy allegedly will come back at some point this season. We'll see what happens with that. But for now, I'll keep them in the solid tier. The Carolina Panthers, the last team we have to talk about that was in the solid tier last week. What a disappointment for the Carolina Panthers, right? This was we were kind of, everyone had finally bought into Carolina. Carolina fans kept saying, look at our record. We're decent, okay? Like, take us seriously. And people are like, I don't know if I can take you seriously. They then win, against the Packers. The huge win. Everyone's like, how in the world did this happen? What a performance by them. Okay, we take you seriously. I'll bump them up to the solid tier. And then they lay an egg against the Saints. They just can't pass the ball. I mean, that's just it. Like, if they can't run the ball, they can't win football games. And I mean, you can't win too many games 13-10 in this league. You can win some, but not a bunch. I'll bump them down tier. They still have a good defense. They're in the what are you tier, but really I know exactly what they are. It's just like that's the quality of team they feel like right now. So now we go to the teams that I had in the feels like playoffs tier last week, starting off with the Chargers, who really impressive win. I still think there was a little bit of flukiness with their offense in the first half, so I'm not going to bump them up to dark horse just yet. But yeah, I mean, really, really good win for them against another team that I had in the feels like playoffs tier. So that was impressive. Their defense looks all the way back, so they're for sure a playoff team. The Steelers lose this one. Again, if Rodgers doesn't play well, this team just isn't winning. And Rodgers didn't play well. He played well for most of these games. He had an off night against a good defense. Let's put them in the solid tier. I still think they're solid. The defensive back injuries are tough. They could keep dropping, but for now, we've seen enough good offense from the Steelers team. I'm willing to pump them up to at least solid, but that's all I can. That's as high as I can have them right now. Feels like every week the Steelers are moving a tier one way or another. And then the Ravens, who after last week I said, hey, I'm going to put them in the feels like playoffs tier. Again, it says feels like playoffs. Then feels like a playoff team doesn't necessarily mean you will make the playoffs given how your record is and everything. But I do think that they are still in that tier. I still think they are in the feels like a playoff team tier. So that is where I will have them. Then we have the dark horse tier, the tier of teams that maybe you don't look at as real Super Bowl teams, but a team that has a chance if everything comes together at the right moment. And for Tampa Bay, I think I have to drop them down from dark horse to feels like playoffs. I just think that when they play these good teams, they just come up short, and the offense just has not been as good as it was to start the season. Teams have kind of taken away Baker's running ability. They're treating him like he's a dual threat, and once you treat him that way, there's just only one guy to go with the football right now, in Emeka Egbuka and Kadon as a receiving tight end, but that's really just it. So we'll see. Got to play a couple more tough games. I don't think I could drop them out of feels like playoffs in their next 2 weeks because they play the Bills and the Rams, but even if they lose those games, you won't crush them, but definitely I think it feels fair to drop them down a tier. The Denver Broncos, you know what? Maybe this is a hot take. I'm going to drop them down a tier as well. They were in dark horse, but I need to see more out of this offense. I just do. I get that their record is great. I get it. And that matters a lot, obviously. But I just need to see more from this from this offense. The defense has played very well this season. They're 8-2. Their record is amazing. But they're playing Kansas City their next game. they got to win that game. And if they're going to win that game, Bo Nix has to step up and at least play all right. Next up is the New England Patriots. So this is the last team that was in the dark horse tier, entering the week. And you see the two teams that, that just didn't play. So they're automatically remaining in the dark horse tier have stayed there. Every other team I've knocked out of the dark horse tier. And the Patriots, I will also knock out of the dark horse tier, but not for bad reasons, for good reasons. They are Super Bowl contenders, and if we're being honest, they might be the favorites in the AFC right now. I think if I had to give a pick, that's who I would give with the, we'll talk about the Bills in just a second, but with all of that, I will talk about the Colts in just a second, and then there's still the Chiefs in the dark horse tier, but Patriots are playing really good football right now, and the other kind of clear teams are struggling a little bit. There's still the Broncos who you have to pay attention to, right? Still the Ravens you have to pay attention to. We'll throw the Chargers in there too, just while we're naming good AFC teams. But this is just a really impressive football team. They're good from top to bottom, and Drake May is a superstar. Drake May is the MVP favorite. To me, it's him or Stafford. It's fantastic stuff. The Seahawks have been really good. Sam Darnold's kind of put himself in the MVP discussion as well. And they just have an elite offense and an elite defense. And the one kind of concern you have was secondary receivers. Well, we'll see once they get Rashid Shaheed kind of more into the fold. I think that there should be all right there. And again, who cares if your number 3 receiver is only okay sometimes if your number 1 receiver is always open with Jackson Smith and Jigba. So yeah, they're absolutely real contenders. The Detroit Lions, they're also real contenders. They have a tough schedule coming up. That's an important thing to note. So they have to make sure that they take care of business with some of these tough games. So I don't know if they're going to get the division. That's kind of a thing. They're going to have to at least beat the Packers when they play each other. If they beat the Packers, they can win the division. But that's going to kind of come down to it. So because of that, that's your concern. But this was, again, going into they're the kind of team that they can put up 40 points against the Commanders, and everyone just talks about the Commanders because we just expect that from Detroit at this point. The Indianapolis Colts, who I still am going to keep in the contenders tier. I am, because I think there's a lot of really good with this team. They just need to protect the football better. Again, they found a way to win that game. It's not easy to go to Europe and win a football game, no matter who you're playing. But that's a team that you should beat handedly, and really it was their inability to score in the red zone and their inability to protect the football, even though, it was only, I think, 2 turnovers. They should have had 7 in that game, and they had a bunch against Pittsburgh, and you just feel like that's going to come back to bite them. But if it doesn't, this is a really good team. They have a really good defense, and if Tre'Davious Ward comes back, that should make it a great defense. They have Daniel Jones playing well. Jonathan Taylor is an MVP candidate. There's so much firepower offensively. Just gotta clean up the little things if you're gonna win it all. They're contenders, but maybe not favorites right now. The Rams are also contenders and maybe favorites. In the NFC, it's them, their division opponent, who they play next week in Seattle. You then have the Lions and the Eagles as well. I have 4 NFC, contenders, with the Packers as a dark horse team, and even Tampa Bay, who was a dark horse team prior to this week. So, the NFC is stacked, the NFC is loaded, and I don't really know who I would I think if I have to pick one of those 4, I'm just going to go with Philadelphia, because they're, the resume, right? But I think that's where you have them. The Buffalo Bills, who I put in Super Bowl contenders after beating the Chiefs. They have fallen into dark horse previously. I think after the Falcons loss, I put them there. And yeah, I got to put them dark horse again. Kind of similar to the Colts, where it's you got to protect the football. The defense is up and down for Buffalo. I think the defense played pretty well, actually, last week. Dolphins made some plays. It is what it is. That Jalen Waddle play is a good play. What are you going to do? But ultimately, I just think, the Bills have become that team where it just feels like you catch them on the right day and they just don't look right. And can you win 4 playoff games with this current construct? Or are you going to, I don't know, go to New England for a playoff game and turn the ball over 3 times and lose, right? They play the Patriots. They kind of have to win that game if they're going to catch the Patriots for the division. As of right now, I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting them to win the division. Same thing with Kansas City. So that's part of why they're a dark horse right now. That's not really why they're dark horse right now, but that's part of why you're looking at them as, maybe on the outside looking in. So should be really interesting. But yeah, those are my tier rankings. It's kind of fun to do it this way, where we go in order of where they ranked last week, but in reverse order. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, that is my tier list power rankings. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.